This is your Solana daily news. We've got airdrops, we've got some JUP information, and of course we've got the actionables. So let's quickly dive in. In terms of pricing is fairly much the same. Solana's just sitting around here, and we could go down further per some estimates or some predictions by Blunt and other people, but we could also potentially hold on and then go up a little bit further. So Saint has this as a thesis. BTC needs to reclaim 66,666. And if we have a quick look at it right now, it's just below that. So it needs to reclaim that in his opinion, otherwise it can go down. Just remember that his thesis is end of 2025, Sol will be $500, $600. I think it'll be higher. In general, I just want to point out that essentially we're still in the bull market. Now, Trader Cos thinks that Monday's low could be a chance that it's a local low, and we could wick down in the future, of course, but this could potentially be a low for the time being. Ansem thinks basically support 58 to 60K. So there are some traders that think that things can go down further, but I just want to point out this, what a bear trap is. So a bear trap is when things start to go down and people think, down we go, it's the end of everything. And this is something that a lot of people get caught out with these sort of things. When what happens is there's a deleverage of leverage. So a lot of people get liquidated. It comes down to healthier levels and then up we go again. So I think we're just in a bit of a bear trap. Now, Roll Paul thinks this, and this guy is an absolute legend. If you want a cheeky top of Sol, this would likely be a good entry zone. Now, GCR is very prominent in 2021, 2022. He did very, very well. I don't know what his net worth is, hundreds and hundreds of millions. He says we're still in a bull market. This is relevant just because, in my opinion, traders like this, they know what they're doing. They can, of course, get wrecked, but generally they've been around enough to know exactly what they're doing. Trader Cos also thinks that bonk right now, this price is probably a decent kind of period for it to bottom up. So you may want to accumulate some or put it into your DCA. On to actual news. So Consensus is very, very big in the Ethereum space. They own MetaMask. They created MetaMask or something along those lines. They point out that Ethereum survived the SEC, but they are still waiting on a little bit more news. So as an example, the SEC is still coming at them in different angles. And this decision follows a letter that we sent June 7th asking the SEC to confirm that the May ETH ETF approvals, which were premised on ETH being a commodity, the agency would close its Ethereum 2.0 investigation. So what I'm trying to say is there's been something good that's happened in crypto with the SEC basically saying, okay, we get it. ETH, it's not a security, but there's still like so much difficulty relating to just being a US company and trying to make something work in the US. It's insane. We are now 10 hours away. We're actually very few hours away. This is going to be ending at 3:30 p.m. UTC. So make sure you get your JUP vote in. I'm part of the Uplink working group, so I, of course, suggest voting for. You can vote for whatever you like. In my opinion, it will be extraordinary plus EV. And I'm happy to say that if you want to FUD me, if you want to FUD the project, if you want to FUD the team, go for it. Just make sure you tag me. I will screenshot it. And then in a year's time, I will show you why you were incorrect. I don't mean that in an antagonistic way, but you know, it's always good to use a little bit of fuel to keep you motivated. If you want to look over any of the previous AMAs, you're running out of time, but you're welcome to do so. Here are the dates that they went out. So you'll probably be able to find them actually in the proposal or in Discord as an example. Now, actually at 3:30 p.m., JUP Planetary Call is going live. Meow and Cash, they're going to have a chat. So jump on there and remember there's a POAP at the end normally. I'm sure it'll be the same this time as well. Now, Sensei has this point. This is not Solana Sensei. This is a different Sensei. And right now, people might be a little bit bearish on JUP because the price has gone down. It's, you know, it's more than halved from its all-time highs. I'm certainly not bearish on JUP. And I have like DCA set up on JUP. So, you know, it gets bought a little bit every day. I think that's going to actually potentially get an airdrop in the future because of someone using the DCA function come January. We don't know what the criteria will be, of course. But also, I think Jupiter will do very, very well and Solana will do very, very well. And these are the two strongest tokens in the Solana ecosystem. They're just my opinions. Of course, you know, Bonk and other tokens are fantastic. There are other tokens that will probably do like a 10x. But in terms of having strength and having community, it's doing well. So next bit of news, this is, I've never heard of it because it's from Cosmos and Cosmos is not on my radar this cycle. New app from Cosmos is on Solana. It's called CoinHall. If you're part of this, go give it a go. I have no idea, just putting it on your kind of radar initially. Next, we've got some airdrop stuff. So remember, if you've got the time, go and airdrop farm one thing every day. These are all deemed gems by Jesse, and then don't miss, let them cook early. So as an example, Sanctum, there's nothing that you can do right now. D-Bridge you can, bridge back and forth. Meteora, big fan of that. JUP, just using value average, DCA, staking your JUP, voting for your JUP. Switchboard, this is a Oracle provider. I don't recognize this one. And there's plenty of other ones out there that you can go get amongst. Now, with Solst and his strategy is, of course, to outperform impermanent loss. But also remember that every time you actually generate fees, you're generating MET points, which will convert to some sort of token. Some stats here with Meteora. It's low in terms of actual TVL. It's harder to use. You can, of course, just use the normal farms, but the DLMM aspect, hard to use, and it's dropped slightly. However, prices of things have gone down. In general, like this is going to bump up. It's going to be well over $1 billion in the future. Next bit of news. I covered this yesterday, MSOL and SOL liquidity. When I cover things, and it's important that you watch things every day, if you can, try and get into these things as early as you can. Even if you're only in there for like 2 weeks, if you trust the DApp, then that's when you're going to extract the most amount of value. So as an example, MSOL SOL liquidity, this will essentially have almost no impermanent loss and, being paid 100%. You're not going to be paid this for very long, but it's nice to try and get as many marinade tokens while the TVL is low. And then as it approaches the cap, you won't be able to put any more crypto in there. So if we just go to Camino.finance, open this link, and I'll just quickly show it to you. I put in 1 SOL earlier. As I said, I'm redoing this, unfortunately. Go to liquidity, MSOL and SOL. The boosted fees are 60%. So maybe I keep this in here for a small amount of time. My position, I've earned very little marinade, but I have very little tokens in here at present with this particular wallet. And if we have a look at analytics, and don't compare it to USDC because, it's SOL, but you can see the community strategy in recent times, it hasn't outperformed just holding MSOL because MSOL appreciates in value. MSOL has done a little bit better. So right now, because we have the marinade rewards, we're looking at something very, very juicy, at least for a couple of weeks. Also, Community Finance is introducing smart notifications powered by Say Dialect. So I'll get this covered in another tutorial. Zeta Markets are going through their ZEX Airdrop. I'm pleased that they've rebranded to ZEX because Z and Z, I don't like the idea of people having something that can be mispronounced with the Americans and people that aren't American. So ZEX, and essentially here is another TLDR on how it's going to work. Not a Wales game, linear distribution, similar to Community Finance. This was fudded plenty. It's mostly fudded, of course, by the small people, the people that don't really actually use the DApp, they're just airdrop farming, which is fine. Airdrop farm away. Like when there's extractable value, there's extractable value. Keep in mind that they're booting out bad actors. So this happened with Drift as well. Some of my wallets were just removed. I didn't go and airdrop farm things. I just used different tutorials. And some of them were just, for whatever reason, they received Drift and then it was taken away, unfortunately. So a bit annoying there. Same thing's going to happen here. If you attack Sybils too much, it'll end up hurting the DApp. But of course, removing some, probably worthwhile. Other news from Drift. So Drift staking is now live. You can stake your Drift on Drift and participate in governance without depositing into Realms. So this makes a lot more sense for me because one, you get double the voting power. Fees from Drift USDC market, apparently they accumulate to the stakers. And I imagine that would be referencing whatever the team has in that liquidity pool and any future benefits implemented through governance. So this looks like it's going to be a better option as opposed to what's presently done via Realms. Realms is also fairly confusing. Davo says a new feature's out from Drift, and this is very cool. So if you have a resting limit order, you'll be paid on your deposit. So as an example, you have 1,000 USDC, you want to go and buy SOL. If SOL dips down to $100, you put in an order. Maybe it never touches that $100 ever, but you just want to sit it there. The present system is it will sit there and you earn no yield. Now you're going to actually earn yield on the USDC because it can still be used in different forms within the Drift ecosystem. And they say that this is the first one to offer earn on unfilled orders. Drift Protocol has also announced partnership with Ondo Finance, integrating real-world assets into Solana DeFi. I haven't done a deep dive into Ondo Finance. I don't know when I will. Thus far, they have USDY, which is like a stablecoin, cannot be used in the US or to US persons or anything like that. So it seems like it's going to be maybe a little bit difficult to see how that's going to work. But I imagine people can just go and buy it on JUP. They just break the rules. Not suggesting you break the rules, just saying you could use it if you wanted to. If this ends up being very high in terms of gaining a yield, then I can see that people are going to use this as long as, that yield is sustained and sustainable. Now, I don't know what else they're going to ship, but either way, there's a partnership there. On the subject of real world assets, Fabiano has pointed to this. bringing $2.7 trillion worth of agriculture market on chain. Now, firstly, like he's just reporting on something, so that's fine. But this is a pumpamental kind of statement. There's not going to be 2.7. This is an industry with that amount of money. What do they actually do? Who knows? I'm just saying, look out for things like this. We saw the same stuff in 2017 where basically there's a competitor to Amazon. And it's like, if we can just capture 5% of this market, this token will be worth whatever. Kind of has that small kind of vibe. Yes, it's telling the truth, but it's not going to be able to capture much of that because this is a legacy system and this is a new system. Regardless, Airdrop campaign backed by Solana Foundation, raised 5 million pre-seed round, and real world assets is part of the narrative. So I'm going to do a little bit of a deep dive on this. If you let me know in the comments if you're keen on it, then I can maybe push that along. Next bit of news, Sanctum has charts. So if we jump into this wallet here, we'll have a look at the new charting feature. So it's very cool like this, and we've got some more information down here. Also, Solflare wallet, the mobile version, has charts, and also in addition to charts, they have a limit order, so you can go and do a limit order. I do still prefer Solflare wallet. Had just a few comments just asking why I've switched to Solflare. I've stated in yesterday's video. Long story short, couple of reasons. Solflare, they're just looking after Solana, and Sanctum, now they're using their resources on Bitcoin, Polygon, Ethereum, Solana, and Monad, meaning there's going to be things that just don't get shipped in time. And there's other reasons as well. Anyway, coming here, we can see the same thing. This has been live for quite some time, but we can also make this bigger. Go into our wallet like this, come into Bonk, and then this is what I love to see. Trading view, okay, all-time high to now, bam, 56%. So this is a bit more advanced, and you need to know stuff a little bit better. But I'm hoping that people come into this channel, they'll go and watch the beginner playlist, which I'll revise and whatnot, and then they will be up to this level because it's all about just hustling with the available time you have while you still get outside and spend time with family and all that sort of stuff. But at the end of the day, you want, in my opinion, a wallet that can do it all without you having to go to 5 different websites. So that's why I'm using Solflare. And if that sounds too shilly to you, then go use Sanctum. I'm literally just trying to save time, and I think everyone should have that kind of mindset. Next bit of news, StepN Go. So I'm not really going to cover this anymore. Just want to point out a couple of things. Nothing wrong with StepN, nothing wrong with their parent company. Just keep in mind that when these assets from StepN came out, they went up really, really high and then just down low. Same thing happened with Gas Heroes and StepN Go. Same thing's going to happen now. I have one person in my DM thinking that they licensed this part out to someone else because on the Polygon network. I don't think that's the case. I'm pretty sure it'd still be part of FSL because StepN Go, it still links to like the original StepN, still relates to GMT and all that sort of stuff. So that's true. But just keep in mind, if you do manage to get one of these shoes, like they can depreciate very, very quickly. Another reason why they'll be on the Polygon network would be because of a Polygon grant. And I'm all fine with these, like just letting you know that if you're going to play this, if you're going to try and get amongst it, that these have a tendency to depreciate very, very quickly. However, if you're using it to try and stay reasonably fit, you can use this or something like Moonwalk Fitness, then I think it's a pretty valuable thing. If you're just jumping in there thinking it's going to hold value, probably not. Now onto meme coins. So DJT covered this briefly, and I still want to cover meme coins, just a small section on them because they are, most of the time, they're going to absolutely fail. Now, if you go to Polymarket, you can do betting. You can bet on anything, like political things, who's going to win an election, who's going to do this, who's going to do this. You can go and it's probably been updated now. We'll just quickly check out the odds. But this is a pretty cool thing. If it's relating to a token, you can go and bet no on something, then take a portion of what you're going to profit off and go and long the other version. And there's probably a good chance that it'd be far more than actually break even. We'll have a look at DJT. Well, unfortunately, the odds have not gone very well. So there's, really no chance at actually getting amongst it. But just keep in mind for future, and I don't think it necessarily works with the Solana blockchain. I'm unsure on that. I think it's more on the EVM stuff. But you can use this, if it's token related, to actually long one version and then go the other version. Next bit of news, this person wouldn't have done too well, as we'll find out in a second. But putting their money where their mouth is, they bought $1 million worth of DJT. We can see it here. A very decent, very juicy trade. 4,000 SOL. I think there's a couple of transactions that they did. Either way, they bought $1 million. This also came out yesterday, 150K to the first person to definitively prove the identity of the creator of DJT. And basically, the thesis is it's Martin. But what's essentially happened is GCR, who I referenced earlier, is betting $100 million that it's fake. So, the big dogs come out here and yeah, as Ansem says, the simulation is breaking so aggressively. Long story short, we're at the stage where people are putting out things, they're saying they're real, or I've got it on good authority that they're real, but they're not real. And people with giant bags of money are saying it's fake. ZEX XBT also came out and said, all right, there's a 150K bounty. Cool. I will go and submit. And then he gets a panic DM from Martin. And this basically also screenshots Andrew Tate. And I mean, this is kind of crazy though. Barron's like Trump's son. So Barron called me yesterday to buy in. It was 1 a.m. Told my team they woke up 9 hours later. I told Barron to give me the amount of tokens I would have gotten from the buy-in at that time, and I'll pump it, but don't think he can. Either way, this is crazy. Like, firstly, Andrew Tate's just out there. He's saying one thing, he's doing another, like crypto is all crap, blah, blah, blah. And then he's just like wanting to profit, which is a money mentality. Like it's good to make money, but at the expense of others. And then the other thing is he does actually say that Barron actually called him. Then Martin says, between us, I have over 1,000 pieces of evidence. I created it with Barron. Barron is Trump's son. However, you can't say between us to ZEX because he's a scam exposer. So no DM is safe. There's generally an unwritten rule that you don't screenshot DMs, but when it comes to a scam exposer, it's not going to be the case. Anyway, he goes on to show who was involved with this, and essentially it's your normal kind of system of people that are just there to extract liquidity. Martin then created this, ended up having 30,000 people tune in, and then ZEX replies, and so on. Now, how this actually played out is crazy. All the warning signs, funded from KuCoin, which is not available to US citizens, and a whole lot of other red flags. And Waz says it's a grade A+ for the PSYOP. Having said all that, there's still actual upside. I'm not saying buy it or anything. I grabbed a small amount. It's down 63% from this kind of realistic all-time high. But even still, from like the first time it was kind of properly mentioned, it's still up a little bit. So as I mentioned, I actually went and put some of this into a liquidity pool. I'll show you that now. So Sol and DJT earned $40 in fees, $120 worth of liquidity. Just need to monitor the range that it's in. So it's not really doing very, very well in this range. So what I would do is I would withdraw and close the position, and then I would rearrange it kind of continually. And I think that's just necessary if you want to do well with these sort of things. Remember, we're getting MET points as well. And I'm just going to go with 0.6 into this curve. I just want to tighten up this range, and then I'll just check in a couple of hours. I will work out how to do like Telegram setup so we can just be alerted. If you want automation, use Camino, but Camino doesn't do like the tightest ranges. However, it still like does it all for you, but they don't do every pair as well. So that's that. I'm keeping it here. I'm getting the MET points, and that's basically what I'm deeming is important. Ideally, I actually want like 1 million or a couple million MET points. So $44, I don't think that's going to equate to anything crazy. USDC and IO, this, because the actual token has dropped considerably, I'm below what I put in. But once again, move it back into a more aggressive range. You don't have to claim the fees because it will auto claim them. Just withdraw the position, and then we'll just jump back in. You can do this with anything. I'm still aiming to go and fund a public wallet with a couple of $1,000s and just enter into different things so you can copy the stuff I'm doing. I mentioned Brother before as well. Brother also, he's better at it than I am. Maybe a little bit too degen sometimes, meaning that he wins and loses more, but he does it a lot more than I do just because making content takes time. So that's what I'm doing here. So now the quick actionables. JUP's Uplink vote ends today, 3:30 p.m. UTC. 10 the JUP planetary call, 3:30. Claim the POAP. Airdrop farm 1 new DApp a day. Check Sol and JUP and stake with validator.com and try Meteor's JUP, Sol, INF, and DMM and pool. Also, MSol and Sol pool on Camino Finance, maybe for a few weeks. As soon as that yield starts to drop below 10%, you may be keen to rotate it into something else. One final thing, I want to create a lot more content, so I'm going to put out different posts and just ask you what kind of content you want to see. Another thing is I'm going to start to do live stream of this because editing and all that extra time, although it's easier for you to watch, it takes up just too much time of the day, and we need a lot more content, a lot more tutorials. So I'm going to put out another post that will just have a whole lot of different time slots, and whichever one gets voted on the most, I will go with that time slot. And of course, if you wake up and you can't see it because you can't see it live, then don't worry, it will be actually available for you to watch as per normal. The only difference is it won't be edited as cleanly, so you may just want to skim through it a little bit faster. That's all for this video. Catch you in the next one.